What do you feel is the core problem that your talk is addressing?
A lot of people will often think of their career just in that linear progression, climbing through a career ladder based on title. And that's the way to advance, to learn more, to grow in both title and compensation. And it really, I love the analogy. It was something I was introduced to that kind of spurred a lot of this thinking that it's really more of a rock climbing wall. And like you might just go grab this other path over here that takes you in a completely different direction, but still up the wall. And that's, I think, the crux of it. And to me, this is both speaking to the individual, but also maybe shifting a little bit of how people coach their teams on career progression and how they should be really intentional behind what they're doing in their day to day and kind of the paths that could lead to.
Hmm. I really like that angle because I think that it's accessible from anyone that attends the conference, where like
Yeah.
you're looking at your own career path or you are a leader and thinking about the career path of direct reports. It's both of those angles are, I think, very important. And is there an element that you saw that wasn't working today that kind of led you problem solution to get where you are when you were thinking about your talk specifically?
It's a good question. In a lot of ways, my career in tech specifically has been this story, right? I've taken on a different function every year, and I've left the function that I was leading before behind, and I've just constantly been leaning into other areas. And I think that's because I've just worked a lot collaboratively in the business and built a reputation as someone who can lean into anything and develop a team. But I also came from a completely different career in nonprofit. So I worked in nonprofit for like 15 years before I came to
Mhm.
ClickUp. And so I've kind of been like an interesting story of a career. And it's something just for me that's like I have a lot of passion in that. Like career and executive coaching is actually something I'm pursuing in addition to my daily work because I just love to talk to people about what their ideas and ambitions are and get them to think a little bit outside of the box in terms of what they can do to take things in a direction that's going to take them to where they eventually want to end up. So I think that's both for teams that I manage, but just like anybody that I can come across, like, even in that like coaching setting as well. It's just, yeah, thinking of things a little bit differently than your standard kind of what we're all taught about how to like advance and what to do when it comes to your professional career navigation.
Who would you say is most affected by this problem from your perspective?
I think it's probably the people that become known as like the experts of their domain or their function that if you are a leader in support, that support is what you know and that your career will only ever be directly in support. And like things are evolving in the world and industries and tech very rapidly, right? And so you both have to like keep up with that evolution just with even in your function. But there's also probably so much possibility even outside of like your direct domain that I'm not saying like you maybe have a direct position in it, but you can contribute across the business, even if you're an expert in one domain. I think that's probably the crux of a lot of it.
Have you mentored someone or seen it show up in real like teams where it's kind of held them back, or the cost of what happens if you don't look at your career in this way?
That's a good question. I think that there's people that, for a lot of reasons, can like get comfortable in kind of what they know and what they're doing on a day to day. And they're just waiting for the only growth opportunity that exists in those cases. I think the only growth opportunity that exists in those cases is like you're almost like waiting for your boss to be promoted for you to go do anything different, right? To
Yeah.
grow in any way. And that's fine. Or even if you're not in a leadership position and you're in an IC path, a lot of companies do a good job of building like a career ladder. And you're at L3 and there's an L4 and an L5 and L6. But then it's like, once you get to that L6, then what, right? So there's just a lot of possibility in thinking about kind of creating experiences to allow yourself to think about more possibilities along the way because if you're doing that and you're collaborating with other teams, you are spending time like emulating and learning from mentors, you're just doing that informal collaboration or spending time with others, learning from them, then that it doesn't lead to the other path directly right away, right in that moment, but you never know where it's going to lead in the future and where it might turn on something else in your brain that's either going to make you better in your role today, but then could absolutely like be something that is a path that will open up to you somewhere down the line.
Do you have any specific experiences that led you to want to focus on this and share it?
There's this intentionality behind, making sure that teams are developed really intentionally. And within the team, there's the individual development part, right? Because everybody in any company, in any organization, you have to figure out like what is their motivation? Where do they want to get to? We're all motivated differently. And I think that a lot of the ideas and principles are universal, regardless of like, hey, I want to be on a management track, or I want to be like a super IC, or I'm doing this right now, but eventually I want to grow into this other pathway that has more possibility for compensation and advancement or whatever. Everyone's going to be unique and different, but I think the intentional things that you can coach them on doing today, they're universally applicable to any one of those pathways. And I think that that's kind of the importance of it is that like it can be a unique way to apply like a one size fits all approach to just being intentional about your journey. It's also like regardless of where you're at, fresh into a new industry, entry level position or senior level leadership, it applies across the spectrum. I think one of the principles that's fundamental to this whole idea is I think prioritizing experiences and not titles. And there's a reason that like that's kind of already outside of the normal way that people think about careers and the way they think about status in careers and all sorts of things. Because it's like if you're seeking work, not necessarily even a role that stretches your abilities and perspective, your career starts to be built on your relationships, your impact, and it's like on stories. It's built on stories instead of status. And I think that we could probably think of someone in a company that we've worked with that functions that way and they build a brand. And then when opportunities open up down the line for whatever reason in the circumstances, somebody leaves a position, there's a new function that is developed, like those are the people that are tapped for those new opportunities. And I think that it's never just based on like, hey, I climbed the ladder to get to this one point and it's this linear path. And then it's like I reached the mountaintop and now I'm here. But it's just a world of possibility that comes with approaching it that way.